Thank you. Welcome to the December 5th, 2018 Wareham Conservation Commission meeting. Agenda, roll call, please.
Yes, members present, Lisa Hurd, Mary Taggett, Joe Leggett, myself, Ken Baptiste, Chairwoman Sandy Slavin, Rob Lesson, and Agent David Pichette.
Thank you. One of the things we will be discussing is, when is our next meeting? We have one for 12/19, and the next one is 1/2. My question is, of the board, do you want a meeting on the 2nd of January? Because we have someone who's want a continuance until the first meeting in January. We just have to determine what that is. Do you think you can be here for a January 2nd meeting?
I can, I think.
Mary?
Well, if it has to be, it has to be.
Well, either that or it's January 16th.
I never
For the
stray
second,
far.
given the choice.
Okay, so it looks like we're good for meetings. So we have a continuance for a meeting for the South Coast Hospitals Group. They've asked for a continuance until the first meeting in January. So is there anybody here for the South Coast Hospitals Group? Okay, so they were requesting a continuance until the first meeting of January, which is the 2nd.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. It's continued. The next hearing was the Clean Energy Collective. They would like to be continued until December 19th meeting. Anybody here for that hearing? Seeing none? I'd like to have a motion to continue until December 19th.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, okay. The other continued hearing we have is Elizabeth Flynn. Is there anybody here for that particular hearing? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bob Goddard. I'm with Great Day Improvements, and I'm here representing Elizabeth. We were here last month, and it was in regards to a unconditioned 3-season room that she was putting on her property. And we had all the paperwork except for the RDA, and she had sent out all the cards, and she sent me the copies of that. She also sent the town copies. So you should have that.
Okay.
We did not get any of that, so,
Yeah, they have it. I haven't got the original green ones that she sent out Friday, so she sent me a copy of those.
let me see when these were sent out.
She's received 5 more in the last couple days.
We're good enough?
Yeah.
I believe we were just waiting for the green cards, or would you like to read the project?
I'll go through it quickly again for the board. The project site is at 3 Quasit Ave, and the project involves the construction of an addition within a coastal flood zone. 12 by 14-foot sunroom addition is proposed in a coastal flood zone, Zone AE Elevation 14. The project is not in the buffer zone to any other resource areas. And the sunroom would be supported on sonotube footings. At the last meeting, I had recommended a continuance because we did not have the abutter notification cards. We do now have that, so I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that comment?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Questions from the board? I'll start.
None.
Mary?
No question.
No questions? No.
None.
None. Is there anybody here that would like to speak for or against this project? Seeing none,
Close the meeting?
I have a
Second.
motion to close. I have a second. All in favor? Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Make a motion for approval and a -2 determination? Second.
I have a motion for a -2. I have a second. All in favor? Opposed, abstained. We have the project. Please see Mr. Bichette before any work is started, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You. We have minutes from August 15th, 2018. They were sent out electronically. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or changes to those minutes?
Motion to accept.
I have a motion to
Second.
accept them. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Alyssa, you were not here.
No.
Okay, so we are 501, correct? So
Sounds good to me.
you must have some minutes for me to sign.
Yes.
I will wait to the end. Okay. We can't, our hearings start at 7:15. We're not there yet, so can we catch up with some older business that does not need a stated hearing date? Jack Nolan, you're up for 226 Blackmore Pond Road, and you want an extension request? Mr. Bichette?
Yes, I'm here, and I'm in favor of it, of course, and I'm here in case there's any questions. Otherwise, I hope you'll just extend this for another year. I proposed, I had tried to sell this property, and I had a buyer, and it failed when the buyer couldn't get the funding. I have now given it exclusively to a real estate agent, so we'll aggressively try to sell it. I'm gonna go ahead and clear the necessary area on the property for the septic and the foundation. And I'll start that in the spring.
Okay. Mr. Bichette, comments, please.
So the project site is at 226 Blackmore Pond Road, and this is a site that the commission had approved the construction of a single-family home on. The order of conditions is due to expire. This is one that we had previously granted an extension on already. But again, the owner has not been able to proceed with the project, so he's requesting one more year on the permit. The project hasn't changed, that was approved, so I would recommend the issuance of a one-year extension.
Any questions or comments on the board?
No. None?
No.
Motion to grant the extension, 1 year. Second.
I have a motion for 1-year extension. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya. We have an extension request from Mass DOT State Highways.
Yes.
For that project? Okay, sorry.
That's all right. This permit was issued so that Mass Highway could perform maintenance activities on the drainage structures for the state highways within the town. That order is due to expire, and they are requesting a 3-year extension so they can continue to do that work as needed instead of having to come back and reapply for a new notice of intent. So I think in this case, it makes sense to grant them the extension.
3-year.
Yeah.
Did it say where it was going on the highway? Was that part of the project for the rebuilding 6 and 28, or is this another section?
No, this is just to maintain existing drainage structures along the highways within the town.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
None.
No.
Seeing none,
Motion to grant.
I have a motion to grant and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? They get their 3 years. Is there anything else we can cover before we go into the 7:15 hearings?
I don't know that we have anything in particular. think we're just gonna have to hold on until we get to the hearing time.
Yes, I do make a recommendation to the members of the board. When you get a chance, go down to Widow's Cove and take a look at a piece of property that has totally destroyed all the coastal bank without permission. So I would like you to go down and take a look at it. It's at, do you have an address, 5015?
14.
14 Widow's Cove. Do you know where Widow's Cove is? Off of Burgess Point. I strongly recommend you look at that site. Mr. Pichette visited and gave them an issue of stop and desist. I got the right word.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely mind-boggling what they've done to that coastal bank. It's gone. So,
Sandy, is this in the area we looked at development?
into the mic, please. I can't hear you.
Was this the area we looked at, they were building a house, or so it'd be on the other side of it, I would guess?
Yeah, if you go down Widow Cove Lane and take a right, it's a couple houses down on the right. We've been to that site before in, when was it? 2016 to permit some coastal work.
Right,
They did not.
they didn't follow.
They did not do what was approved. So you really need to go down and look at that and then hold your jar up because it's going to fall. It's nasty. Okay.
We got time to go through the draft conditions?
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
that's come out several times, and
Is that ready for us to vote on?
does anybody have any questions on the draft conditions? Joe, a highlight for us, we were trying to put into it some time frame for which to respond to, so we don't have, if I recall, help me.
Certificate of compliances?
Yeah, well, you got so much
10 years
time
later.
to do your work and then come back and ask for an extension if you can't get it done, but
Or
do
a
not,
certificate?
do not come to us for a certificate of compliance 10 years after the project's been done.
I believe the other part was nitrogen, reduced nitrogen
That's
loading.
right, so that our standard order of conditions, including a low-releasing nitrogen fertilizer, right?
Correct.
Okay, does everybody remember what the draft, because Dave sent out, not sent out, but he handed out the draft proposal. Does everybody get that in their head?
So, yes,
Are you pretty comfortable on voting that? Okay, I'd make a motion to accept the draft conditions and add that to our
standard,
existing standards.
thank you. There's that
Second.
motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. So we will update our standards.
Thank you, Dave.
All right.
What's the Swiss Beach Bridge thing?
I forgot to bring a picture. If you go down to Swiss Beach
You know what a
and the
drainage
parking
is?
lot off of Swiss Nick, at the end of the playground, someone built a bridge, a walking bridge, into the sand to go across that drainage ditch to get that 5 acres that CPC land bought.
Yep.
Well, it's now eroding away. We have no idea who put it there. No one stepped up. It wasn't permitted. The foundation underneath it is washing away in the sand, and I wanted it on here to talk about the removal, but I forgot to bring the picture of the, It's on my phone. So,
Somebody
just-
is doing limited maintenance on it during the season.
yeah, they added another level, a layer of
Springboard.
springboard because it was collapsing. We don't know who did it. But that's part of what we want, the open space plan. Open space is trying to get a bridge in there permanently, well-established, engineered correctly, so,
One that's gonna weather storms.
Now that you mention it, I remember something years ago. David, do you remember that? This was back when Dougie was here. That was way back.
well, we tried,
There was some kind of discussion about that ditch.
Yeah, I think that's correct, but nothing ever came of it then.
well, another road trip, please, take it down, and the parking lot by the playground go through the Phragmites and you'll see the bridge that's there. All right, we're 7:15, let's start our hearings.
Notice
The
of,
first one, please.
notice of public hearings pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Hamilton Beach Association, care of Carrie Pastor, Hamilton Beach Association, 3 Glen Ave, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, for beach sand nourishment for property located on Assessor's Map 50F, lot abutting 1049 Worrell Avenue, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. For the public, I know some of you are the first time you're here. This hearing is being recorded and will be replayed on WCTV, so please keep your comments civil. And I will stop you if you go off track. We're here as a conservation commission, and we're limited to what we have control over, and that's what I'm going to ask. The comments be limited to what we are here for the hearing, not other side notes. I know a lot of you are going to want to speak to this, but I'm going to ask that you do not be repetitive. We have a full 2 hours ahead of us, and we will listen to you, but not say the same thing over again. So will the person, Carrie Pastor, come up and represent the organization? And identify yourself for the record, and Mr. Pichette will read the project.
I have the green cards.
Oh, do you have green cards?
Yes.
Okay, we're all set then.
Kerry Pastor, President of the Hamilton Beach Association.
Thank you.
Okay, so this project site is in Hamilton Beach at Worrell Ave. The project proposes to place sand on the beach at 2 locations that are access points to the main beach and side beach at this location. It's proposed to place approximately 10 yards of beach sand at each point to nourish sand that has been lost to erosion or just had been moved through maintenance activities. Gullies on the main beach have resulted from excessive stormwater runoff. The beach sand would have to be a compatible material to the existing beach sand at the site. The sand would be spread by hand or with a small bobcat type machine. And so I did have a question about how this material would be maintained, and how will the placement of the sand affect street flooding of the area. There is a situation where the beach currently is being eroded because the runoff from the street just goes directly over the beach, and there's a pretty significant gully across the beach that's occurred. Placing the sand in that entrance area will block the stormwater from going over the beach and gullying it out, but then that may cause increased street flooding. So it's a difficult situation with this particular proposal that needs to be understood. In my opinion, if the commission does approve the sand placement, there also needs to be some research done into stormwater structure improvements that can be explored to improve the flooding situation in this area.
Thank you. Comments on it, please.
No, I filed the application for Hamilton Beach in order to place the sand in the nourishment for the erosion of both sites. One is at the intersection of Reynolds and Worrell, which is to help beef up the handicap mat we put in for the people with walkers and wheelchairs. That goes down in the summertime and comes up in the fall. And the other one's at the intersection of Turner and Worrell down there by what we call the front beach entrance, where recently, due to the stormwater runoff, we've had some severe erosion down there. And that is partially, that is my fault, I will say, that I did that, and now we need to replenish the sand.
Any other comments? You agree with Mr. Pichette as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right, questions on the board. I will start.
Why was it your fault?
I moved the sand to help alleviate some of the water that had flooded down there, and it rushed down the road like I knew it was going to happen, and went there, but, and it eroded out dramatically.
Here's a copy of the erosion of the beach.
Yeah, I've seen that. Thank you.
So the request is for us just to put the sand back in its original condition. It's been marked off of where the sand was taken away and where it needs to go back in.
And what will this do to your street?
It'll bring it back to what it was historically for many, many years. There will be water there that will gather, as it always has. It's the lowest point on Quonset Island.
Yeah.
And it's been there since God was around. And there's nothing we can do about it at this point in time.
And how often do you think you're going to have to refill it with sand?
If we refill it now and we stop the stormwater from running down the road and wash it off, it should be, I can't give you a time, but I would think it'd be years before we have to go back and put more sand in there because the water won't wash it out. The only thing that will wash it out in the road is the incoming tide. As the channels fill in, so to speak, the water rises and is taking out the beach from the front side.
No more questions.
Mary?
Is there any question of regrading where those drains are to cause some of the water to drain off better into the drains?
Could I just see what you're looking at there?
Well,
Just a
let's see
picture of
where
the drain.
drains are, you know, there was a lot of water there.
If you can, yes, there is a lot of water. The 4 roads are connecting there,
Mm.
and it settles right there. The water table down in one drain closest to the beach is 34 inches. The next one beside it is 36 inches. So there's no capacity. I've had Dave Menard from the Highway Department there. He's looked at it. There's no capacity to take care of all the water. It does rise, but within a day and a half, 24 to 30 hours or so, the water evaporates. It's gone. It does go into the basins and drains out.
There are several drains there, but they don't seem to be working well or going anywhere. So it's not as if we've got stormwater drainage being plugged. Okay, Joe?
Just a couple things. I just want everybody to realize that these are not town-accepted roads down here.
Private
So-
roads, yes.
Yeah, so the drainage is not the town's business as far as that goes. Personally, I used to ride my bike all over that area back when I was about 9 years old, which would be about 52 years ago. And after any major storm event or a major thaw, there was always puddles there. We used to ride from Swiss Beach down there to ride through. And what I've noticed over those years and up until recently, that water would pool up halfway into the road and then down to where the sand was actually mounded up and over. And then slowly, that would seep back into the ground. That's how I remember it. So I'm fine with building that berm back up to where it was, but there's gonna have to be some sort of a schedule, whether it be with snow fences to keep the sand there or something like that. You know, so you're not having to do that every 2, 3, 4 years. And you're gonna have to look at the drainage situation if you wanna take care of that. I think you know that. But usually it's typical, 2 or 3 days on the worst storms, and the water's gone down.
Drains are cleaned at least twice a year, and the contractor will do it on demand.
Okay, that's it for me.
Kenny?
No, they
Do you wanna
seem
see
to have
this?
covered everything I thought about.
There's you've mentioned a permanent fix. Has anyone brought one up? Is there an obvious solution to this problem, or is it?
I don't think there's an obvious solution. I think some work can be done and should be done to explore options to deal with it. There might have been some attempts to look at certain options, but maybe not all of them have been thoroughly explored. But I do think the association needs to look at that to help the situation versus just thinking the sand alone is going to resolve it all.
Can we approve this and add some kind of time frame for a plan? I'm not sure what we're allowed to do.
I think that's a little beyond what this application is for in terms of requiring that. I think the commission can strongly suggest it and say, we may not continue to allow more sand to be placed there until you make an attempt to do something with the storm drainage.
When was the last time that either of these two beaches were restored, refurbished,
Nourished.
renourished? I knew it was a word. Yeah, I remember seeing one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was about 12 or 13 years ago.
1999.
Thank you. Okay, anything else from the board? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak against this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Thomas Cochran. I'm at 22 Wareham Avenue at the corner of Turner Avenue. I've been on Hamilton Beach for 5 years, and it's a wonderful place. And we very much want the beach to be safe, and we want the beach to be nourished, but not at the expense of the homeowners. I was the one who sent this information to the commission through Mr. Pichette. The historic so-called puddle that is at that gathers, that this gentleman probably rode his bike through, continues to be.
I did ride my bike through, it wasn't probable.
That is not what I am addressing, and my wife Margie, or my neighbors who are here. What we're talking about is the change at the corner. The sand has built up so high on the beach by wind and wave that now the beach holds the stormwater back. And we get a depth of stormwater which goes over my property, goes over almost 6 properties that are at that corner.
Okay, so I'm sorry, no comments from the audience, please.
If any new sand is put on the end of Turner Avenue, which stops the water from flowing, it will flood our property. Even an inch of sand will flood our property. We are afraid here that something may happen, and we'll look to this commission to do the right thing. Instead of just putting sand, which, when I looked over the petition, what looked to me like the petition is flawed. The map that shows where the sand is gonna go is not on the beach. It shows that the sand is going on the end of Turner Avenue, perhaps up to 15 yards, maybe half of that. But nevertheless, Turner Avenue will be sealed up, and we'll be inundated with stormwater. Because things have changed, we now have flooding up to our foundations. When we walk out our door, when in the flooding, our feet are wet. Our driveways are wet. There's up to 2 feet of water. This is not the puddle that historically everybody thinks about. But the flaw I see is that the petitioner is asking for just to dump sand at the end of Turner and do something with it. But I don't see any plan. I don't see any engineering. I don't see something for the commission that says it's gonna be this high or that high, or we're gonna lower it, or make it no higher than this or lower.
Okay.
So what I would respectfully ask the commission to either deny the petition because it's going to harm homeowners, or 2, approve it with a plan that tells how the beach is going to be maintained and at what level the beach is going to be.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, when you dump these 10 cubic yards of sand at the end of the road, you're going to create a berm to prevent the water from running on the beach, correct?
Back to the existing berm that
Okay.
was there.
How do people get over that berm to get to the beach?
It's only a 4 to 6 inch rise.
So it's 4 to 6 inches high?
9 feet from the fence is where I shoveled the sand out and pushed it out to the side as requested by Mr. Cochran here.
Okay,
All right, so I'm only gonna put the sand there, I have it marked, it's gonna go 4 to 6 inches right below the fence, and the rest will go into the beach. Prior to this, all right, the water never went over past the fence and eroded the beach. It did leave like a mark up there about 10, 12 feet from the beach, from the fences, and then it,
Okay, so this berm will hold the water
yes.
and prevent it from eroding the beach? Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I made my presentation, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to speak for this project?
There might be more against.
Is there anybody else against the project? You're right, I should have asked that. I'm seeing none. Is there anybody who'd like to speak for the project? Please come forward and identify yourself. Thank you, Thomas.
My name's Jim Donovan. I live at 23 Wareham Ave, across from Taunton. And I've lived there for approximately 40 years. And there's no denying that there's always been a bit of a drainage issue out front there. We have had a puddle, if you will, but it has gotten increasingly worse. The drainage situation there is pretty bad. To the point that in the winter, if you have a rainstorm and it freezes, it's basically a safety issue. You've got 4 or 5 houses affected with this frozen water, to the point we can't even get into our home. We were gonna move down here full-time, and we came down last winter several times, and we couldn't even get into the house, and decided that we couldn't live here full-time. It's a great summer home. We don't mind wading through a couple of feet of water in the summer when it's warm to get to our cars. It does go down within 24 hours or better, but in the interim, it's a major inconvenience. People's homes are being affected. I'm not sure if having the water run down the beach is the answer. It has alleviated a certain level of water for all of us in that area. I'm not for having the beach eroded either, but we do need to come up with some sort of a solution that takes care of this issue that the 4 or 5 homes in the area are dealing with. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has a comment against this particular project? Seeing none, in support of this project? Okay. Anything more from the board?
I just got one suggestion that you might want to think about putting a small wall. You'd actually have to talk to Dave on that. Basically, so that whatever sand you mound up stays there, even if you do get a major storm event, that actually wash up all over the bank.
You mean something stronger than sand to prevent the...
Yeah, even if it's spiked in railroad ties or just 2 courses of block that's got a foundation underneath it, so they don't get scattered all over during a major storm.
Does the commission want to request further detail about the elevation of the sand to be placed so that it's clear to the board and in the file that the sand is going to be X number of inches high and within this given area versus it ended up being 2 feet high, when it's not really intended to be that?
It can't be 2 feet high because...
That was just an example, but I'm just...
The fence won't open up.
Right.
All right?
But you also have, it's not clear what will happen at the other site for dispersing this 10 yards of material. We've only talked at the end of one of the streets, not the second one.
The other site was just 2 ways. We petitioned and granted the handicap map last year, and it has quite a slope to it going down. So I was just trying to level that off a little bit with some sand, just a suggestion to put, so the mat would be a little bit flatter going to the beach for the people that need walkers and wheelchairs.
Okay. I don't think that has been really defined in this document, or am I not reading it? I would like to see more information as to how this 10 yards of like beach sand will be dispersed at both locations.
When you say how, you mean by how?
Well, we just talked about a 4 to 6 inch high berm, so many feet from the fence. That's not in the document, and it's not clear on how it will be taken care of at the other site. It just dump 10 yards there, or will you spread it by hand, or?
And even if it's just sort of a sketch cross-section, so we can have some sense of what the intent is for the material. We generally know, but just to have it so that it's on
So
record.
that we're all on the same page as to what has been permitted versus what could be done, so that we,
Do I need to submit that on another application, or do I submit
Ju-
it in writing?
Just in writing as a amendment to what you already have.
because if this meeting is, if we continue the hearing, then there's no more publication. This will be the formal continuance.
Is
Yes,
that something we can condition?
I think you probably should just make sure you have it prior. The next meeting is 2 weeks from now. I think it would make sense to get that information so it's on the record, and take it up at that meeting.
okay.
I think you're well-intentioned, but I think what I'm hearing is that a little lack of trust between the parties. And so I think that having something that's written that says we're going to do it this much here, is a good idea. Nobody then comes back to you and or back to us and says this, that, and the other.
Okay,
1219 work for you?
Yes.
Okay.
And when do you need that, in order to have it on the agenda properly, or?
it'll
Get
be,
it to Dave as soon as possible. That way, if he sees something that throws up a flag, he can tell you right there and gives you another chance.
12/19 meeting?
Yes.
okay.
But make sure Dave's got a copy of it in advance of that.
All right, anything, so and take a motion to
Motion
continue?
to continue to 1219.
I have a motion.
Second?
I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant
That was a
To
good
the-
idea to continue that one.
All right.
Give them a minute to clear out so we can be heard.
You want to keep that?
And here's this one back.
Everything that you can't, one man's doing it, and it's gotta be
Something written out, so you
No,
can
Jim,
follow it.
you know, it's a whole new set of, whole new set of rules for me.
Yeah.
Oh, with the dock.
Okay, Alyssa, give it a shot.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the
Excuse me,
Massachusetts
can you take your conversation outside? We still have a meeting.
Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for Kevin Miller, 8 Parker Drive, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to erect a storage building for property located on Assessor's Map 59, Lot 27, 8 Parker Drive, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Anybody here for this particular project? Come forward and identify yourself. Thank you. Mr. Burchett will read the project.
We don't have the
Oh,
abutters.
do you have the butter cards? Do you have your green abutter cards?
Oh, no, I didn't realize I needed.
You have them, though.
I do have them, yes.
We'd have to continue that.
Yes, we will have to continue the hearing. Do you want to talk to it first and see
Sure.
if there's any questions that might come up that can help?
The project site is at 8 Parker Drive in...
Sorry, where do you live?
8 Parker Drive.
Do you want us to table this for you, go get them?
Yeah.
So someone make a motion to table,
Motion to table?
and when you come back, we'll put you back on. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
thank you. Thank you.
We will be here, too.
Yes.
Thanks.
Should you
All
sign
right,
on
next
these?
one.
On the back?
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaws, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for Deborah Norcross. 20 Red Pine Lane, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to construct a walk and patio with associated grading for property located on Assessors Map 111, Lot S5, 20 Red Pine Lane, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Anybody here for that project? Please come forward and identify yourself. Yay, the green cards. I'm all set. He's asked that you bring the microphone closer to you so you can be picked up on the tape. Thank you. And identify yourself.
I'm Deborah Norcross, the property owner.
Thank you. Mr. Pichette will read.
So the project site is at Red Pine Lane, and this application is being filed as partially an after-the-fact filing for the removal of vegetation and landscaping activities in the buffer zone to a wetland at this area, which is a cranberry bog. Vegetation has been removed within the buffer zone to the bog, but no work was conducted within the 30-foot no activity zone to the bog. Work that was done in the buffer zone and that remains to be done involves landscaping work, which includes regrading and the construction of retaining walls. A retaining wall and a 15 by 15-foot patio are proposed, and this would be approximately 90 feet from the edge of the wetland. There's also some planting of shrubs proposed within the buffer zone. Based on what's been requested, I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3.
Yes, Deborah, anything to add to those comments? But you started some of the work, right?
Yes. Well, the removal, there's been some removal of the vegetation and some trees have been replanted at this point, and the vegetation has already started to grow back. And
Anything else you want to, anything you want to add to Mr. Pichette's comments? Just,
no, really, the disturbance that has taken place was to get access into my backyard in order to facilitate putting a retaining wall further up on my property, which I had obtained the permission to do that. Unfortunately, I did not realize at the point that a wetland, that a cranberry bog was actually considered a wetland, because I'm thinking it's actually force flooded, so, and I had met with Dave, and he had mentioned to me what needed to be and how it needed to be put back to that particular condition, which is what, what I had done. There is, it's kind of done in a tier fashion where the first wall that I had put in is in place, which is on my property, and a second wall, which would be a little further down, as David said, 90 feet, away from the cranberry bogs, which will also help to, retain the soils and whatever's there. And I want it to be in a natural state, with the exception of a small little patio that will be, that'll be there in the natural wall.
thank you. Questions from the board?
How big is your small patio?
It's 15 by 15. It'll probably be even smaller than that, but.
And you said you got permission to do this, to do what you did?
No, what I did was on my property.
Right. I'm sorry, I thought you had
I
said.
got permission in order to come over, I came through 80 make pieces, cranberry bogs,
Right.
in order to come into my backyard. And through the course of doing that, I came through the conservation area. Okay, the 100-foot buffer area.
Yeah. No more. Mary?
No question.
Joe?
No questions.
Kenny?
No. No questions.
Is there anybody in the audience speaking against this project? Speaking for this project? Seeing none.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
And make a motion, I make a motion to grant with a -3 determination, and this was an after-the-fact fine.
Yes, it's an after-effect finding.
I'm gonna levy a $50 fine on that.
All right. So I have a motion to grant -3 and a $50 fine for starting the work ahead of time.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Please see Mr. Pichette for the paperwork before you continue. Okay? Thank you. Okay, we'll take a minute to collect our paperwork.
I go at the same time?
Okay, next one,
Notice of
please.
public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Giancola Properties, Minot LLC, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to construct a commercial building for property located on Assessor's Map 44, Lot 1000, 72 Minot Ave, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody for this, anybody supporting this project, please come forward and identify yourself. You have them? I can't many.
More? Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mike Giancola.
You Brandy who?
Thank you. Mr. Pichette will read the project.
The project site is at 72 Minot Ave, and this application is being filed as part of the requirements for site plan review. The project involves the construction of a 16,000 square foot commercial building with associated parking areas, utilities, and stormwater structures. After reviewing the site, it was determined that the project is not within any jurisdictional areas under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act or the town's wetland bylaw. So therefore, I would recommend that the commission issue a negative determination number 1 and number 6, which basically states that there are no jurisdictional wetland areas on this project site.
Mike, any comments on that?
No.
This is next to
That's the old snow and...
the snow building.
I own the snow building, I bought that and renovated that, and then this is land that came with that purchase.
Any questions on the board?
None.
Anybody,
I have no questions.
anybody in the audience for or against this project? Seeing none.
Motion to close?
I have a motion to close.
Second?
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Motion to grant with a -1 and -6.
I have a motion for a -1 and -6 on this
Second.
project. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. That will make planning very happy, right?
I
Or
get it.
zoning, one of the others.
Thank you.
Any idea what's gonna be going in there? Remember, you're on TV, though. so.
No, it was the same when I bought the Snow and Jones building, you know, I didn't know what I was gonna put in there, but I think if you drive by,
Yeah, it worked out pretty good.
it looks pretty
I'm
nice.
very pleased to find it so rented, so used. I mean, it was just,
I think it looks nice, and, you know, that's my plan for the next one.
nice landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
This is mine.
Oh, okay.
I think you're gonna ready.
It's on the paper.
Okay, next one, please.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for William Dube, care of Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, 50 Oliver Street, Suite 101, Northeastern, Mass. 02356, to upgrade a septic system for property located on Assessor's Map 129, B3, Lot 17, 30 Agawam Drive, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody for this project, come forward and identify yourselves. Thank you.
The project site, as was mentioned, is 30 Agawam Drive, and the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to Agawam Mill Pond. There's an existing cesspool that's to be replaced with a new Title V septic system at this site. The leach field for the new system would be just outside the buffer zone to the pond. The septic tank and piping would be in the buffer zone, approximately 75 feet to the edge of the wetland. The limit of work would be approximately 58 feet to the wetland. Erosion control is proposed between the work area and the wetland. I would recommend the use of hay bales at the site. There are no grade changes proposed, so I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3, again with the added condition that hay bales be used for the erosion control at the site.
Anything you'd like to add, please?
No, I think David hit it right on the head.
All set?
All set.
Questions from the board? I'm going to start with you.
Just squeak that leaching field in, couple inches.
It's a tough area.
Yep. It really is in there tight. Okay, questions? Anybody else?
No question.
Anybody in the audience for or against this project? Seeing none,
Motion to close?
have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Make a motion to grant with a -3 determination with stipulations plus adding hay bales for erosion control.
Thank you. I have a motion to issue a -3 with the addition of hay bales.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. We are 5,
Ready? Notice of public hearing.
yeah, wait a second. Before you start anything, see Mr. Bichette for your orders and whatever, and I think that does it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Borrego Solar Systems, Inc., care of Beals and Thomas, Inc., 32 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass. 02360, to construct a ground-mounted solar array for property located on Assessor's Map 106, Block 1, Lot B, 77 Farm to Market Road, Wareham, Mass.
Please come forward and identify yourself for the records, please. Which one are we doing first? This is, you said Cremisa?
Farm to market.
Farm to market.
Farm to Market.
Oh, like, there were so many of them, I got confused.
Scientist with Beals and Thomas, and
Thank
I
you.
have the green cards for Farm to Market.
That's the
you.
one that had a change of use, right?
I'm sorry?
That the one that had the change of use right off of Tohono Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Okey dokey.
Continue.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Bichette will read the project.
Again, the project site is 77 Farm to Market Road, and this project involves the construction of a solar array at the site. This is another situation where the applicant is filing this request to get a determination from the commission that the project is not within the jurisdiction of the commission. And again, after reviewing the project site, it's been determined that the project is not within the Conservation Commission jurisdiction, so therefore I would recommend the issuance of a negative determination number 1 and number 6, again stating that there's no jurisdictional wetland areas on the project site.
Yeah, those are already there.
Stacy, anything to add? Thank you. Questions from the board?
I have none.
Anybody here like to comment on this particular project? Seeing none,
Motion to close?
I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, closing the hearing. Aye. Opposed, abstained. Hearing is closed.
Negative 2 determination, right?
1 and 6.
1 and 6 on this one?
Yeah, because there's no wetlands.
Okay, I'll make a motion for negative determination 1 and 6.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, Stacy, I'm going to ask you if you could step back because Mr. Miller has returned with his green cards. Thank you. I need a motion to untable the Miller.
Untable.
I have a motion to untable Mr. Miller. I need a second.
you.
Second.
I heard a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. You're untabled. Mr. Okay, wait a second. This is the farm to market one.
Oh, this is Parker Drive.
Yeah. Storage building.
Parker
Storage.
Drive.
building.
Yes. No, but that approval going through is for a farm to market.
Yeah.
We knew that.
Well, okay.
So the project site is at 8 Parker Drive, and this is in the Cremisa area. The project involves the construction of a storage building within a coastal flood zone. A 12 by 26-foot storage building is proposed within flood zone AE elevation 14. The building would sit on a concrete slab foundation. This site is not in the buffer zone to any other wetland resource areas. There's no filling or grade changing proposed on the site. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Thank you.
No questions?
Kevin, anything to add to the particular comment on it? No. No questions. Okay, then on the board, I heard no.
I have no questions.
No, Mary?
No questions.
Anybody here speak for or against this project?
Seeing none, motion to close?
Motion closed. I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained, opposed, abstained. It's been approved to close the hearing.
Motion approved with a negative 2 determination?
Motion- And I heard a motion to approve with -2, and I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. It is done. See Mr. Bichette before you start the work? See Mr. Bichette before you start the work? And thank you for going home to get your green cards.
I wish I would have needed Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Borrego Solar Systems, Inc., care of Beals and Thomas, Inc., 32 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 02360. to construct a ground-mounted solar array for property located on Assessors Map 106, Block 1, Lot B, 70.
No,
No, let me see, back one. Yep,
I think we have that one.
yep, Charlotte, all right. Assessors Map 105, lots SA and A2, 71 Charlotte Furnace Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Stacy, you're up again.
Yes, hi. And
Please identify yourself for the record.
Stacy Finahan, professional wetland scientist with Beals and Thomas.
Thank you. Green cards.
Green card for natural
I like
heritage.
this.
We sent all of them in one package.
All right, very good.
I've already-
You're up, Mr. Bichette.
I know what it is.
The project site is 71 Charlotte Furnace Road, and this project involves the construction of a solar array at this site. The associated access road and interconnection to the grid will be in the buffer zone to an inland bank at this site. The site is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. The work will be in the buffer zone to an inland bank associated with an agricultural farm pond. A 25-foot wide gravel access road is proposed with utility poles to be installed along the edge of the road for the grid interconnection. The new solar array itself is outside the buffer zone to any wetland resource areas. Erosion control barrier will be installed between the work and the inland bank. We did get a DEP file number for this project, but we have not received comments from Mass Natural Heritage yet. I don't know if you happen to get anything.
No, I left a message with Jesse. I had spoken with him Friday. I can summarize that after your.
Yeah. So given that, I would have to recommend a continuance of the hearing to our next meeting, which is 12/19, for those comments.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you would like to add to this?
Yes. So, of course, if the commission has any comments, I'd love to hear them this evening. If there is feedback on the project, so that hopefully for the next meeting, the only outstanding item would be the natural heritage. The project site does have a conservation and management permit from Natural Heritage for the site proper, so for the existing solar array and for where the proposed array is. And I'll stand up in a moment and switch the plans. But the access, as Dave noted, is outside of the limit that we had previously shown Natural Heritage. So I have been in touch with the reviewer, Jesse Leddick, and we'll be providing him with information so that he can evaluate whether it's minor enough to be covered under the existing CMP or if an amendment is warranted. The species in this area is eastern box turtle, and if the Natural Heritage Review does find that mitigation is required, it will be undertaken in the same manner as the other projects, land set aside proximate to the Miles Standish State Forest under that Natural Heritage program that we have. So I understand if the commission needs to continue, but I'm confident that the natural heritage issues will be addressed. I also was unclear, I had called Jesse today because I was unclear if he was planning on issuing letters to the Conservation Commission or not, but I didn't reach him, so I was unable to get an answer on that. The only other things that I just wanted to mention briefly about the access, and those who were at the site visit saw it, it is a disturbed area. It's a man-made agricultural reservoir, and I did create an exhibit that was requested at the site visit showing in the top image the 2015 Google Earth of the area, so you can see that the agricultural reservoir is smaller. They had just started earth moving to the west, and then to the south is what is out there today with the expanded reservoir. So unfortunately for us, the work would be farther from the bank and perhaps outside of the 50-foot if they hadn't expanded the reservoir, but they did in 2015. And we reviewed that area in some level of detail during the site walk. So we did request a waiver from the 50-foot no-touch. I think this project will have a significant public benefit without environmental impacts. There's no tree clearing proposed, and it won't alter the character of the existing bank, which is generally sand here. So I'll just point a few things on the map. This is the 50 versus the 50 here. And supposed to speak into the mic, but it shows the 50, and actually, oh, I apologize. I brought a few handouts so that you can see it.
Those work better.
Yeah, that was that first. And these are just aerials. So there should be one for everyone. That way you can see that Google Earth exhibit closer.
It makes a difference, doesn't it?
And then I'm not speaking into the microphone.
Go ahead, take this one. Thank you.
And there's an overview of the site as well. So I think in a nutshell, that's all I had wanted to convey, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Several of us did go out to visit the site. So I can start with Alyssa.
Okay, the road that's going in is going to be gravel, did you say?
Yes.
Gravel, okay. And the drainage off of that gravel, where is that going?
It's country drainage. There's no formal stormwater facilities proposed. This site was entirely cleared and prepped during past permitting efforts. So we'll be hopefully improving the vegetative condition under the proposed array. Right now it's fully sand, but it's just, sheet drainage off of that gravel road.
And where the road is going in, right over the reservoir, is that angled, is that flat? The drainage there is just what it is now?
So there would likely be some runoff from the road towards the reservoir as well as in the other direction. I think the key with this use is it's a very infrequently traveled road, gravel, so no pollutants coming off of it. But the intent is to hug that road kind of along the crest, along the top of the reservoir. And I suppose I should explain for those who weren't at the site visit and didn't hear the reasoning. We had initially proposed access to the north, adjacent to the proposed array from Charlotte Furnace Road. That's out of Conservation Commission jurisdiction, but still in natural heritage habitat and would have required tree clearing to cut a swath for access. So we looked to the south, and frustratingly, although there is an existing agricultural crossing of that transmission easement, it's at an angle, and the utility company requires that the crossing be perpendicular. So that's why we had to have an S-curve coming off of that existing agricultural access road.
Thank you.
Mary?
No question.
Joe?
I have no questions. I visited this site and I have no qualms about giving an exemption in that area over on the man-made part of the reservoir. So I'm fine with the project. But we're gonna end up having to continue it anyways. Oh, sorry.
Kenny?
No, I'm good.
Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this particular project? We're going to have to continue for the Mass Heritage documentation.
Do you think 12/19 is gonna be enough time for them to get that information?
2 weeks?
I think it will be.
Okay, let's go for that. Motion to, now I'm having a more words. To continue to 12/19.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to continue until 12/19. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? We're continued. Next one, please.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. The public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Borrego Solar Systems, Inc., care of Beals and Thomas, Inc., 32 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass. 02360, for Phase 2 of ground-mounted solar array for property located on Assessor's Map 111, Lot SA, 160 Tehonet Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you, Stacy Minahan, professional wetland scientist with Beals and Thomas.
Thank you. Green cards.
Thank you.
Mr. Pichette will read the project.
Here.
I like this size.
So again, this project site is at 160 Tehonet Road, Lot SA. And again, this project involves the construction of a solar array at this particular site as well. The electrical conduit to run to the interconnection to the grid will be in the buffer zone to, again, an inland bank. And again, this site is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. The work is in the buffer zone to an inland bank associated with the cranberry bog. Electrical conduit would be installed within the existing sand access road leading to the site. The new solar array is outside the buffer zone to any wetland resource areas. There is no new tree clearing that would need to occur for this new array as it has been cleared previously. Erosion control barrier would be installed between the work and the resource area. We did get a DEP file number for the project, but again, we are waiting for comments from Mass Natural Heritage on this, so I would again recommend a continuance to the next meeting.
Thank you. Stacy, anything to add?
Sure, just a quick note. So as Dave noted, the work is within the existing or adjacent to the existing agricultural access road, which shows on this index plan. It'll be cut and cover installation of electric conduit, so fairly straightforward. And otherwise, nothing to add, but happy to answer questions.
Any questions?
No?
I went there, I have no questions
No.
at all.
No?
Nope, I have no questions. Anybody here speaking for or against the project? I'm seeing none. We're going to continue.
The 19th would be good for that one, too? Motion to continue to 12/19.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We're continued until the 19th, waiting for National Heritage paperwork.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay,
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, December 5th, at 2018 at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Mercedes Broom, care of McKinnon and Keys Engineering, 23 Looks Mill Lane, Rochester, Mass. 02571, to repair, upgrade existing cesspool for property located on Assessor's Map 119B4, Lot 19, 194, Glen Charlie Road, East Wareham, Mass.
thank you. Anybody here for this project? Come forward and identify yourself. Did they ask for a continuance?
They did not ask for a continuance, but this project was before the Board of Health earlier today, and the Board of Health continued their meeting, so potentially they decided that this hearing would likely be continued also. I don't know, but the applicant is not here, so we don't have the green cards. I could read the project, Mrs. Chair, if you would like me to.
I don't think so. We can do it when we continue.
Okay, motion to continue,
Second.
12/19.
I have a motion to continue until the December 19th. I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I have a
Oh,
second.
Melissa seconded.
I didn't hear it.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of continuance? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, it's continued until the 19th.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass, on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Kenneth and Susan Nelligan, 156 and 156 rear Cromeset Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to remove trees and install a dock for property located on Assessor's Map 54, Lots 5 and 1017, 156 and 156 rear Cromeset Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Come forward, please, and identify yourself for the project.
Good evening. My name is Ben Elliott, and along with my wife, we own 156
Okay, thank you. Can Mr. Bichette will read the project?
The project site is at 156 Cromeset Road, and the project involves the construction of a dock over a salt marsh within land under the ocean and within a coastal flood zone. Vista pruning is also proposed within the salt marsh and in the buffer zone to the salt marsh and also within a coastal flood zone. The dock that's proposed over the marsh goes into Cedar Island Creek. The plan that was submitted for the dock is a hand-drawn plan and is not a plan designed by an engineer. Therefore, the plan does not meet the requirements of the wetland bylaw, which requires an engineered design for the pier with accurate details in terms of the water depths and high and low tide lines and the pier design itself. So I'm going to be recommending a continuance for the hearing until we get an adequate plan for that feature of the project. Also proposed is to do some tree cutting work for Vista purposes at the site. Some of the trees proposed to be cut are either in the 30-foot no activity zone or within the salt marsh area. So again, I think that's something that the commission needs to look at carefully. But since we're going to be continuing this, or I'm going to recommend a continuance, if commission members have not had a chance to go out to the site to see where these tree cuttings are proposed, then I think that's something that they should do prior to the next meeting. But again, at this point, I would just simply recommend that we continue the hearing for more adequate plans relative to the proposed dock.
Thank you. I'm writing slowly, sorry. Ken, anything to add to his particular comments?
Well, yes, I mean, I'm prepared to answer any questions on each of these sub-projects, and in particular, I was hoping to get some feedback on the dock project. I can explain what it is we're trying to do and why I would like some feedback. We live in an area where we like to kayak, and what we'd like to propose to do is build a small dock, what the state considers a small dock. They have an expedited process for docks that are residential in nature and are less than 600 square feet in surface area. And this one that we're proposing, the way we proposed it, would be about 304 square feet, so it qualifies as a small dock. And what we'd like to do is build it to allow us to travel over the marsh and over the bank to get to the water, to launch the kayaks and retrieve them. And also to extend out a little bit into the water. The water can get fairly low there, and by putting this small dock in, we'd be able to extend the time that we could kayak for about 2 hours on each side of high tide. So we actually think that it would be beneficial to the property. We don't want the property to erode any more than it has over time. If you look at the deeds and the lot plans, it looks to me as if over the last, I don't know how many dozens of years, that the water has eroded the marsh to some extent. So I've mentioned to a couple of members when they come out to visit the site, I did try to get an engineer to design the dock for us, and I got a quotation. I was told it would cost anywhere from $10,000 to $16,000 to design the dock. So if there's any feedback that I could have, for example, in the bylaws, it says that the spans between the posts have to be a minimum of 15 feet, and I'm proposing to do 8 feet. And I provided an analysis in terms of how much soil would have to be removed to put in posts, 4x4 posts at 8-foot distances versus 6x6 posts at 15-foot distances. And I think you'd end up removing less material if you did the 4x4 posts. And also the stringers could be 2x6 stringers. And I think if I went to a 15-foot span, I think I'd have to go to either 2x10s or 2x12 stringers. The other thing that I'd like some feedback on, if I could, is the location of the dock. Because we're proposing to essentially get us over the bank to the water, we're proposing to start the dock essentially in the middle of the strip of marsh, between the edge of the marsh and the water. So if that's something that's acceptable, that would be good to know. If it's not, that would be good to know, so I could get it redesigned. And the other thing that I was wondering, in terms of the engineer, does the engineer have to be registered here in Massachusetts? How does that work?
I don't know that it has to be registered in Mass, but they have to be a professionally registered engineer that's familiar with this sort of construction.
Okay.
And to comment on the question, it's my recommendation to the board that the dock here, or any dock, should not start halfway out into the marsh. It needs to start on solid ground and then traverse the marsh and get to the water. So that's my recommendation as far as that particular issue to the board.
The other question I have is, in terms of needing an engineer to actually design the dock, if I had an elevated wooden walkway going over the marsh and then a seasonal dock, would that make a difference?
It would not make a difference. Either way you go with it, the structure would have to be designed by an engineer. And anything in an area like this needs to be adequately designed so that it is going to be able to stand up to potential storm events, things of that nature. So for the commission to give you feedback on the distance of pilings and stringer sizes and all that, it's not something the commission is going to be able to do because they're not necessarily engineers. And that's something that needs to be designed into the structure by an engineer so that it is going to be sound in the environment that it's in.
Right, but the question I'm asking feedback on is the bylaw itself.
Well,
if I had an engineer come in and stamp a drawing that had 8-foot sections instead of 15-foot sections, is that going to be an issue?
if it doesn't adhere to the bylaw, then yes, it's going to be an issue. So it should be 15-foot span if that's what the bylaw requires.
But it allows the commission to decide that if something benefits the marsh, that they could agree with something else. And what I'm trying to do is suggest that it would actually benefit to use 8-foot sections instead of...
Well, that is sort of difficult for the commission to determine because the engineer may not suggest using 4x4 posts, which you suggest, but he may not. So until we know that answer, it's not a question they're going to be able to give you a feedback on.
All right. What about if I got an engineer to design a wooden walkway? What if I had a seasonal floating dock with feet that kept it raised 2 feet above the floor, the seabed? Would that be more palatable to the commission?
I'm not sure I get your last part that you're describing.
Well, you bring the dock out to the water's edge, and then you'd have a floating dock, a seasonal floating dock, and then you'd connect it to with a ramp.
So again, if you were going to have, let's say, a ramp to a float sort of a situation, which is not uncommon for a pier system, the float would have to have adequate water depth so that at low tide it's not resting in the mud and everything else. So it would depend on what sort of water depths you had for that particular setup.
To accomplish that, I'd have to have feet on the dock that would keep it from going all the way to the... There are times at low tide when the water, this depth is essentially zero. Not always, but there are times that happens.
Right, so one of the requirements of the bylaw is that you have to have at least 2 feet of water at low tide. If you don't have that, then you don't meet the requirements to have the structure where you want to have it. So that's going to be, again, part of what the engineer has to basically determine if you have the appropriate water depth where you want to place the structure.
Okay. Are there any other issues that the commission members would have? I mean, if I'm going to go out and spend this kind of money, it'd be nice to have some kind of feedback that...
I want to talk to the harbor master first, too, because I would definitely want his input on the location of this and how far out it goes. I'd actually want him to actually...
It's essentially going to go out 2 kayak lengths from the bottom of the bank?
I want to hear from the harbor master.
Okay, good.
And one other just quick comment, as far as the engineer's involvement initially, you know, I know you mentioned the cost would be whatever it was to design the pier, but you might want to just have them go out initially and get the information relative to the water depths and things like that for whatever amount that's going to cost. And then if he determines that, you know, you absolutely don't have the requirements, then you're going to save yourself the time and money of trying to propose something that's not going to get approved.
Well, I've already measured the water depths. There's a document in here called soundings record, and by the way, I apologize, I made a mistake as to the date. It was actually, these numbers were taken on September 27th, not October 27th. So I've gone out from the point where the dock would end and measured the depths I gave you the dates, the time, the weather, the wind conditions, and I included the information from websites about the tides. Is that not sufficient information?
That's, again, not sufficient because the elevations are going to be based on a certain datum that has to be used by the criteria that's required to determine what the elevations are and what the water depths are. So you have a mean high tide and a mean low tide, and that's based on a certain datum. So if you were not basing your soundings off of that information, then those depths are not going to match up to what the engineer is going to produce. So it does require survey work to accomplish getting the accurate information.
Okay, I guess I don't understand why the information I got wasn't accurate.
Because it's not based on any survey. It's just based on you going out there and putting a yardstick in the water and saying this is how deep it is.
And that's not what we need to know?
No, it needs to be, again, based on surveyed elevations, based on a certain datum that's used to determine what the depths and elevations are. And that's why it's required to be done by an engineer.
Okay. How about any other comments or concerns?
As Mr. Bichette recommend you bring in an engineer and have him take a look at it to say whether or not it's something that can be permitted based on our bylaws.
Okay. No, there's always a catch-all, isn't there, that if you decide it's good for the environment, that you can authorize it?
We're not good for the environment.
All right.
And check with the harbor master, because I would definitely want to see a harbor master's comments on this.
Okay.
Excuse
As
me.
far as the path and the deciduous trees, there's actually some exposed tree roots along the path, and I was hoping to get some feedback on what I could do to protect them from being eroded any more than they are. So
Yeah, I know I had planned to meet you there. I had another violation matter come up that I had to address, and so therefore I couldn't get there, but I'm certainly happy to meet you there between now and the next meeting, or whenever the commission continues the meeting, to look at that particular issue and discuss that further.
Can you repeat for me how long this pier is, this dock that you're planning?
Yes.
48 or 49 feet?
I think it says 46 on the plan.
46 there, yeah,
My
and
guess
then
looks on
comes up
96.
65.
Well, if you're talking about from the edge of the water, it's,
No.
it's going to extend about,
40 some odd.
Yep,
40, all right.
right.
into the creek.
And that covers the top of the bank to the bottom of the bank. So including that, it's gonna go out about 46 feet. When you actually get to the bottom of the bank, out to the end, out to the dock, it's something like 21 feet. So it's about 2 kayak lengths. And I added a section, another section there, because when you get out to that point, there's a rather large rock that I wanted to cover, so nobody jumped off the pier and hurt themselves on the rock.
Okay.
Now, to accommodate the comments that I got tonight, I'm gonna have to bring it back another 27 feet to get to the edge of the marsh. So that'll add 27 feet to that length.
Is there anybody in the audience would like to speak against this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening, my name's Karen McHugh. I live at 9 Sippacan Road on Marks Cove, and I'm the president of the Cremisa Park Improvement Association, and I'm representing several of our members who are here tonight, and I'm aware that several members sent letters of opposition to Mr. Hachette. I also have a small document packet that I'll be handing out to you as a former teacher. I know if I give it to you now, you won't even listen to me because you'll be looking through the papers. So I just wanted to say that we have no opposition to the property owners taking down any trees. We all appreciate the incredible view that we have in that area, and so we have no opposition whatsoever to cutting the trees to improving the view. But we are opposed to the building of the dock, and our reasons are detailed in the document packet that I'm going to give you, and in the letters that we've sent to Mr. Bichette about this. Again, we have no opposition to improving the views that we all think are pretty magnificent in that area, but we're strongly opposed to the building of the dock, which we believe will have serious and detrimental consequences on the enjoyment of the Marks Cove and Cedar Island Creek area, and certainly on the health of the Marks Cove and Cedar Island Creek area also. Thank you.
Can I get a copy of that so I understand what the opposition is?
Yes, I mean, if you have X number of copies for the commission, I can make a copy of it for you and make sure you get that.
We have an
Anybody else like to speak against this project? Anything new to add to the comments that were made?
She's got a comment.
Okay.
No repeats? Thank you.
My name is Mal Wood. I live at 25 Sippacan Road, and I'm a member of the Cremisa Park Improvement Association. Our main objection in this is that we feel that the, as Dave said, the application is not complete. But we are very fortunate to have the Diamondback terrapin habitat is in Marks Cove, as well as the eastern box turtle. So there are 2 endangered species. The Diamondback terrapin lives in the creek. It winters over in the creek where this dock would be going. So we have environmental concerns as well with flow. It's a very slow flow area. There is no water in that area. Depending on whether you've got a high tide or moon tide or no moon. So there's problems in the area, and they struggle, these turtles, to exist with the residential people who are there and the recreational activities. But they've made a comeback, and they are there. And the National Heritage comes down and they check the nestings in springtime. They were initially released, I believe, just north of Mr. Gleason's property, and they have made their way down into that cove and live there. So any flow problem at all will endanger these poor little creatures who have struggled to exist there. And we're very aware of the crab traps and the problems with them being caught in crab traps. We go out and we make sure they have those clips. We have the postings that they have to have a clip. I think we've spoken to the harbor master, asking that, he give a paper with that so that any crab traps will not drown our turtles that are put in that area. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else against this project? Anybody speaking for this project? We will, Ken, do you think 2 weeks, or you want longer for a continuance?
Well,
12/19 or January 2nd?
I think we'll need some time.
All right.
January 16th?
Well, what I would suggest is we continue the meeting to a point, and then if Mr. Nelligan is not quite prepared, then we'll just continue it again. So obviously, he's not going to know exactly what meeting date he's going to be ready for, so I would suggest starting with January 2nd, which is basically a month away. And then if you are prepared by then, great. If not, then we can just continue the hearing further at your request.
Sounds good. Sounds good to you?
Yes.
Okay, we make a motion to continue to
Wait.
January 2nd.
You wanted to add something?
If I need a continuance, is it something that I have to appear at the hearing?
No,
Send a
you
letter.
could send a letter or just email me.
Okay.
So I have a motion to continue until January 2nd.
Second.
I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. And if that doesn't make, just send Mr. Bichette a note saying you'd like to have continued to another date.
All right, thank you. Between checking out with the engineer and digesting the information I just received, I'm not sure how long it's going to take.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if I'm looking at this agenda,
We're done. Yep. We did
Is
good.
anybody have anything to add
What do you
to
want me to do
tonight?
with that? No.
Okay.
Let's wait till they clear out.
I have,
Let's wait till they clear out and see if anybody has any.
we're going to wait for a little quieter to make sure we're all clear that we're ready to go.
Did you have any interest in addressing this gentleman, or was he saying he just was coming to basically observe the meeting?
I said that it was a public meeting. Whether or not you would like to have him come up and talk to us now, before we close the hearing, before we close the meeting, we can't do anything about it.
Well, that's my question, is was he thinking he was supposed to be here tonight to discuss this, or was he just
No,
coming to?
Just coming. We're about to close the hearing. Is there anything you would like to?
We only came in to try and see how they've never been to a hearing. I've got a problem, and we want to.
So this is a typical,
Familiarize
this is a
ourselves
typical
little bit.
hearing, so yes, so. Anything for you? I know other than CPC needs to add some reports.
I'm just getting familiar with, who people are, and see some new faces, some old faces, some people who are on other committees.
Okay,
And,
so nothing from the audience, so Mr. Leggett, continue. Oh, no, Kenny, you did it. I have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Oh, great, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, thank you, Mr. White.
Very good. Very good.